In the long history of the cooperative movement, women have played an important role in shaping the movement. Since its inception in 1960, the ICA Asia and Pacific Regional Office had recognized the role of women in cooperatives and conducted research on the status of women and various activities to promote women's participation and empowerment. However, it was in the 1990s that full-scale activities began to take off. In the early 1990s, women cooperators in the region, with the help of the Swedish Cooperative Center, began building a network of women. The ICA-AP conducted its first fact-finding survey on gender integration in cooperatives in 14 countries, highlighting the need for appropriate gender policies. In 1995, the Fourth World Conference on Women was held in Beijing, raising momentum for gender equality globally. Ms. Akiko Yamauchi served as the gender program advisor at the ICA-AP during this period.
女性委員会設立前の背景として押さえておくべき点は次の3点です。1点目は1975年メキシコで開催された第1回世界女性会議に始まった女性への差別解消を進め、あらゆる場面での女性の参画を高めていこうという世界的な流れです。アジアでは95年に北京女性会議が開催されることを目前にしてさまざまな取り組みが進みつつありました。ICA がアジア地域でも女性の参画に関する調査を行ったこと、その後の課題整理から行動計画づくりにつながる大きな流れの背景は、世界的なうねりの影響を受けたことであったと言えると思います。日本の協同組合では92年アジア初の ICA 世界大会開催を控え、国内の協同組合全体で世界の皆さんを歓迎する準備を行っていました。私は女性委員会を歓迎する側として農協や漁協の皆さんと準備を進め、この中で農協では女性が組合員になりづらい、またいずれの協同組合でも意思決定の女性参画が遅れていることが明らかになってきていました。2点目は日本の政協での女性参加を高める動きです。日本政協連では91年に会長の諮問機関として日本政協連女性評議会が設置され、政協の意思決定の場における女性の参画の現状と今後の方向について2年間討議を深め、答申がまとめられました。私はこの評議会の事務局として国内の調査や論議に関わりました。つまり日本の政協の課題としても解決すべき男女共同参画課題が認識され、取り組みが進みつつあったということです。3点目は日本の政協に対する世界の協同組合からのアジア協力への要請です。80年代共同購入を中心とした日本の政協の大きな発展は世界の注目するところともなり、従来欧米の協同組合が担っていたアジアにおける協同組合支援の取り組みに対し、日本がしっかり支えるべき時代に来ているとの認識から、日本の政協による財政人的支援の期待が大きくなっていました。これを受けて日本政協連は93年からジェンダー活動への財政支援を始めました。93年には東京で行動策定会議の開催を支え、その後94年から私自身が ICA のアジア太平洋地域事務局へ派遣され、ジェンダー活動を進めることとなりました。私はインドの ICA 事務所赴任の後、92年のコロンボ会議、93年の東京での行動計画策定会議で得た女性リーダーたちとのネットワークを基礎に、後に女性委員会の委員長となるマレーシアのラハイや、取り組みの理論的支えを与えてくれた AWCF アジア女性協同組合フォーラムのロタやサリー、フィリピン協同組合全国連合会のテレなどと論議を重ねました。そしてICA の機関会議である地域総会で女性委員会の設置を提案し、その後各国の協同組合関係大臣が参加する閣僚会議でジェンダー問題への取り組みが急がれることを発言。さらに97年のフィリピン多外体で100名以上の参加者とともに女性の参画を高めるための戦略を練り上げ、 98年の女性委員会発足へつなげていきました。
In October 1998, during the ICA-AP Regional Assembly in Seoul, the memorable first ICA-AP Women's Committee meeting was held with about 30 members in attendance. The meeting identified the need to promote networking and leadership training for women. At the turn of the 21st century, the committee developed training manuals and actively organized leadership training and networking programs. Ms. Savitri Singh made a significant contribution to developing the committee's work as the secretary of the committee.
As you all know, that the committee was constituted in 1998. I joined ICA-AP office in 2002. By that time, the committee was in infant stage. With the generous support of JCCU and the colleagues from JCCU, we worked together very hard to take forward the mandate of the committee, and we worked with various countries in the region to bring women together. For this, we introduced various programs and created various documents. We developed 2 training manuals, introduced training of trainer programs, entrepreneurship development programs, workshops, conferences, and women forums. Besides, we also took forward the mandate of the committee to be included in the deliberations of the ministerial conference and got the resolutions passed. For the very first time in the history of ICA-AP, the Women Committee initiated sex disaggregated data collection in 2005. And we came to know that roughly 30% women are there as members in the region, and very few at the leadership or at the managerial level. At that time, women were not much seen and heard in the cooperatives. Very few women used to attend the regional assemblies of the ICA-AP. Very few women were there as the chairpersons or executive of the ICA member cooperatives. Gradually, due to our programs, we started seeing differences. We started seeing women coming up. There were examples that the members of our committee became leaders at their country level and also internationally. So this was the tremendous impact of the work of the Women Committee on gender equality and women empowerment in the region. I also got the opportunity to represent the ICA-AP Committee on Women to the side events of the United Nations twice. We also interacted with and collaborated with other regions to bring more knowledge and experience for the benefit of the women in the committee.
The committee had steadily expanded its work, but women cooperators were still facing many challenges. At the Tagatai Plus 20 conference in 2016, the committee identified what to tackle, including women's capacity building, cooperation with governments and international organizations, appropriate gender balance in cooperatives, and gender-sensitive legislation and policies. Dr. Nandini Azad, as the chairperson of the committee, emphasized women's roles in cooperatives and called for actions toward gender mainstreaming and equality on various occasions.
The Asia-Pacific Women's Committee undertook a regional status study on women in cooperatives to assess the situation in the Asia-Pacific region called Gender is More Than a Statistic, on gender disaggregated data, a study. The study findings were presented at the Asia-Pacific Cooperative Ministers Conference, APCMC, by me as chair of the study committee who undertook the study. the APMC adopted 30 to 50% representation of women in committees and bodies, councils, and all other higher cooperative structures. The key findings of the study was, while women's representation in cooperatives at higher echelons was not significant at the decision-making levels, the new trends, decisions, issues indicate new thresholds of change for women. The ratio of women chairpersons increased from 7% in 2005 to 10% in 2016. The ratio of women vice chairpersons increased from 18% in 2005 to 23% in 2016. The salient recommendations, amongst others, was gender integration in cooperatives, that is, the following of the Gender Equality Committee, the Women's Empowerment Committee, increasing the membership of women in cooperatives, gender disaggregated data studies, tracking equality indicators such as women's participation in governance, management, and membership, etc. The quest towards achieving gender equality in decision-making in cooperatives began within the ICA-AP committee and ourselves. This was the ICA-AP's first attempt to analyze women CEOs in the region and explore their journey to the top job. To contemplate why they are almost invisible, challenges, opportunities, and solutions, we reached out to women CEOs in the region and the network, Asia-Pacific Network. The objectives were to create awareness on the status of women in leadership positions in cooperatives and also the need to promote gender equality in decision-making, reflecting on the legal policy environment and cooperative governance practices in Asia and Pacific region, identify gaps on how it impacts gender equality at the decision-making level, formulate concrete action points, guidelines for cooperatives to adopt to achieve gender equality. Conscious human resource development planning, HR planning, resulting into equal opportunity for women to get at the position of CEO. Formulate an action plan for ICA-AP to support, monitor, and evaluate progress in gender equality. A regional webinar was held on the impact of COVID-19 on women cooperators in the Asia and Pacific. And we held this in 2020. The discussions during the webinar showed that COVID-19 severely affected women in all the sectors. Members discussed the economic and non-impact impact of COVID on women both in the formal and in the informal sectors of countries. Members discussed the actions and wanted to find ways that the cooperatives could support women, their cooperative business and communities. The other webinar which we held in Chennai at the Indian Cooperative Network for Women was very useful and very much appreciated by Madam Chitto-san and the JCCU team and the ICA-AP. This was on training of trainers program on digital financial inclusion of women cooperators at the grassroots, organized for 3 days in September 2020 by WWF and ICNW. The objective of the TOT was to build technical skills of women members of primary savings and credit societies. The TOT not only helped in building the technical capacities of women, but also instilling confidence in them to use digital banking during future uncertainty and emerging. This would ensure that they could continue with the business without being dependent on others and have timely access to hard-earned credit.
The committee has been working step by step to drive positive changes for women in cooperatives for 25 years. However, there is still a long way to go to achieve full gender equality. It is now to accelerate our efforts to make it happen.
アジア太平洋地域におけるジェンダー平等の促進、また ICA-AP 女性委員会の発展にご尽力くださったすべての方々に心より感謝申し上げます。女性委員会が設立されたことで、女性たちが集い、交流の中でお互いの経験を共有し、話し合うことで共感が生まれ、明日への希望につながってきたこと、そして女性が自分の能力を存分に発揮できるよう、教育訓練の機会を提供し、女性の参画、地位向上を促進してきたことは、この25年の大きな成果だと思います。しかし、協同組合におけるジェンダー平等と女性のエンパワーメントの実現には、 未だに多くの課題が残されています。女性を取り巻く情勢は大きく変わり、新たな課題やニーズも生じてきています。ICA-AP の良き伝統を継承しつつも、社会情勢を鑑みながら、アジア太平洋地域の協同組合の女性たちの声に耳を傾けて活動に反映させていきたいと思います。今年度2023年からは、経済的エンパワーメント、社会的エンパワーメント、知識、教育、研修、連帯を柱とした新しいジェンダー平等戦略に基づき活動を展開していく予定です。一人一人の力は小さくとも、私たちが手を取り合って協力すること、それが大きな力となり社会を変えることができると信じています。アジア太平洋地域の協同組合の女性たちの命と暮らしと尊厳が保障され、生き生きと自分らしく歩めるようサポートができる持続可能な組織づくりに力を尽くしてまいります。